North Korean leaders have staged an apparent protest over annual military exercises between the United States and South Korea. Officials in Seoul say Pyongyang fired 2 ballistic missiles towards the Sea of Japan. They say the short-range missiles took off at around 6:30 a.m. local time Monday from the western port city of Nampo. They estimate the missiles travelled for about 500 kilometres before landing in the Sea of Japan. The officials suspect they were Scud ballistic missiles. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe instructed members of his government to work closely with their counterparts in the US and South Korea to gather and analyse information. And he ordered them to secure the safety of nearby aircraft and ships.
The launch is a violation of the Japan-North Korea-Pyongyang Declaration, the joint statement of 6-party talks, and UN Security Council resolutions. We lodged a strong complaint with North Korea right away.
The launch comes as South Korean and American troops kick off annual military exercises. About 210,000 troops are taking part in the drills in South Korea.
The Korean peninsula faced a new standoff between the North and South along the demilitarized zone, conducting a complicated environment. On August the 20th, North and South Korean forces exchanged fire across the inter-Korean border. The South has also raised its military readiness alert to its highest level, Jindage 1. The latest exchange comes as tension is high on the Korean peninsula following the maiming of 2 South Korean soldiers by a landmine on August the 4th as they were conducting a patrol inside the South Korean half of the 4-kilometre-wide demilitarized zone, or DMZ, that separates the two countries. Seoul accused North Korea of infiltrating the DMZ and planting the mine. Also, South Korea began anti-North propaganda broadcasts from a number of towers along the border. The North Koreans have issued numerous statements over the past week regarding the start of the broadcasts and the ongoing annual joint Ulchi Freedom Guardian military exercise between the United States and the South. This year's drills, that began on August the 17th and are slated to run through to August the 28th, involve 50,000 South Korean soldiers and 30,000 US servicemen. Pyongyang views Ulchi Freedom Guardian as practice for an invasion of North Korea. Despite the alert levels, however, it is possible that the situation will rapidly de-escalate because both sides seek to practice restraint to avoid a larger conflict. On Saturday, the 2 Korean envoys began talks on the border crisis following tensions that saw an exchange of fire, a landmine explosion in the demilitarized border zone, and South Korea's propaganda broadcasts. As a result, North Korea has admitted it regrets South Korean soldiers' injuries in landmine blasts that fueled the border conflict, and South Korea has promised to halt its broadcasts into the north. North Korea has also reportedly pledged to end a semi-state of war, while South Korea will stop its border broadcasts at noon Tuesday if no abnormal situations occur in the near future. The Koreas have also reportedly agreed to hold new talks in Seoul or Pyongyang as soon as possible. However, unlike the March 2010 surprise sinking of the ROKS Chonan, a South Korean Navy corvette, and the November 2010 bombardment of Yongpyong Island, the current skirmishes are taking place along the DMZ. Preventing a major escalation is significantly more complicated along this strip, where the presence of 2 armies in close proximity raises the risk of the escalation. The situation is further challenged by an aggressive South Korean stance supported by the US. According to Korean military sources, the US has been considering to dispatch B-52 or a B-2 Spirit stealth bomber and a nuclear-powered submarine currently stationed at Japan's Yokosuka naval base. In turn, North Korea has deployed about 20 amphibious landing craft to the northern limit line, the inter-Korean border in the Yellow Sea. Since the beginning of the standoff last week, Pyongyang has doubled its artillery power and sent more than 50 North Korean submarines out for operations. The US has previously dispatched its military assets to the peninsula to support Seoul in its standoff with Pyongyang 2 years ago. In April 2013, it had flown B-2 stealth bombers. Today, a significant role in solving the crisis in the Korean peninsula belongs to China. For it and Russia, the escalation will mean a rise of a new hot point around the borders. Amid the economic crisis and a destabilization of much key regions of the world, a new military conflict is not in the interests of China and Russia. In this context, we should point out an aggressive policy of the USA and a militarist rhetoric of South Korea. Once again, the US and its allies use any case for attempts to conduct a military conflict in Eurasia. Meanwhile, the Korean conflict is still unresolved. The region periodically goes through high tension that occasionally results in bloody military collisions. Both sides are keen to avoid a full-scale destabilizing conflict, but with millions of troops facing each other across the DMZ, the risk of escalation is ever present. The current standoff could still rapidly dissipate, but it is important to remember that war is a persistent risk under these circumstances.
After South Korea's military shelled North Korea's border area, apparently in response to an earlier shelling from the north, Kim Jong-un has ordered full military readiness for war, unless Seoul scraps its anti-Pyongyang propaganda. The leader of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Kim Jong-un, has ordered frontline combined forces to enter a state of war on Friday, the official KCNA news agency report. The announcement comes after an exchange of fire between the rivals earlier on Thursday. According to the KBC broadcaster in South Korea, the North's shells targeted a military loudspeaker that has been broadcasting anti-Pyongyang propaganda across the border. North Korea has repeatedly demanded the removal of such loudspeakers, calling them provocative. Macedonia has declared a state of emergency on its southern and northern borders over a surge in migrants and refugees, the Interior Ministry announced. The country said it would involve the army in confronting the crisis. Interior Ministry spokesman Ivo Kotevsky stated that the authorities may have moved to seal off illegal routes used by the migrants and refugees. Thousands of migrants were stranded on Thursday in a no-man's land between Macedonia and Greece near the Macedonian town of Gevgelia. Israel has pounded with artillery and launched airstrikes against 14 Syrian military positions in Golan Heights, holding Damascus responsible for failing to prevent a rocket attack on Israeli territory, which the IDF pinned on an Iran-funded Islamic Jihad group. In addition to Golan airstrikes by the Israeli military, unconfirmed reports emerged that the IDF also targeted Syrian 137th Regiment near Damascus. We remember, in the latest international military review, South Front reported that IDF has been exercised in preparation for a ground invasion into Syria. Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras has confirmed his resignation and early election plans for Greece in a live address. The move comes after Athens made to pay a huge chunk of its €3.4 billion debt to the ACB. Tsipras said that he will now be looking for the Greek people to vote to continue the government program of his leftist Syriza party. Alexis Tsipras was one of the few who tried to defend the sovereignty of Greece faced a hard economic crisis and political pressure of the EU. Now, the future of the country is hidden under a fog of uncertainty.
In the wake of the funeral for North Korean leader Kim Jong-il, North Korea said the world should not expect change in its leadership style or policies. In the first formal policy message since Kim Jong-il's death earlier this month, North Korea condemned South Korea's President Lee Myung-bak and affirmed the leadership of Kim Jong-un, who was officially declared supreme leader yesterday in a ceremony in Pyongyang. For more, we're joined by Christine On, Executive Director of the Korea Policy Institute. She's visited North Korea 3 times. Welcome to FSRN.
Thanks, Dorian.
How do you view the statement released today by the Korean Central News Agency? Is it to be expected in this time of political transition? Do you see anything new in it?
I think it is to be expected, just because Kim Jong-il, who is the political figurehead, passed away, does not necessarily mean that you're going to see dramatic political or economic or military changes within North Korea. That's because there is a pretty well-seasoned veteran cadre of political elites who are part of the Workers' Party and the Military Commission, who really do make money of the decisions for North Korea. So I don't see much change. I do see a prospect of changes that are happening in terms of political winds of change blowing in South Korea, and also just the fact that Kim Jong-il was so vilified and despised by the West, that the fact that there is a fresh face, Kim Jong-un, that there is kind of a clean slate in terms of not knowing much about him, that there is prospects, hopefully, for dialogue, especially with the United States.
Well, you note this seasoned or experienced circle of advisors or leaders around Kim Jong-un, but what about Kim Jong-un himself, who's been declared supreme leader? Little was known about him, although he did make some appearances over the past few years. What new information came out about him in this past week?
Unfortunately, not very much. I mean, I think the most information that we have is that he, attended boarding school in Switzerland. So that much we know is that he's had the experience of living abroad and living outside of North Korea. And so given that, we live in an international community, that hopefully that will influence the ways in which he would like to govern North Korea. I mentioned earlier that South Korea is experiencing tremendous winds of change, and the current president, Lee Myung-bak, who was not even willing to, send formal condolences to North Korea. I think that, the people of South Korea are ready for a different kind of policy.
And in fact, that lack of formal apology from the U.S. and South Korea was mentioned in today's release by North Korea.
Yes, correct.
Now, with this talk on the geopolitical level, what about the people of North Korea and how they could be affected? North Korea is typically characterized as a place of extreme poverty, of mass starvation, and that has been well documented. But there's been also signs of some development and change. What do we know about the state of economic growth and of the disparity? And what have you seen on your visits there?
I do agree that there have been some changes definitely in the daily living situation of North Koreans, especially from the past decade, which was perhaps the darkest hour for North Korea, in which up to 1 million people perished in the famine. And the thing is, the good or the bad is that it has a lot to do with North Korea's bilateral relations with China. And what we're seeing is essentially North Korea falling greater under the control of China. And so how does that impact the potential reunification of the two Koreas? How does that impact, the U.S.'s ability to leverage at all? And so I think that right now is an opening for dialogue and engagement.
Christine Ahn is Executive Director of the Korea Policy Institute. She's visited North Korea several times. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Dorian. Bye-bye.
If you've been following the news the last couple of days, you've seen that Kim Jong-un in North Korea has consolidated power. At least that's what some people are saying, after he had his uncle executed. The man's name is Jang Song-taek. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Now, he's long been considered the second most powerful man in North Korea after Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il. He was Kim Jong-il's brother-in-law. Kim Jong-il's sister married him as Kim Jong-un's uncle. He had him executed. He had him taken away in public. It was something that's usually not done. Wasn't done in the past in North Korea. A very public show of that he's going to be executed. He was executed. He was tried for crimes which included womanizing, taking drugs, plotting treason. Now, this is something that surprises a lot of people. It certainly surprises us. The trajectory I personally thought was going to happen was some type of Chinese-style communist capitalism, where he would open up the country. He was reared in Switzerland, had time there. He's a big fan of American culture, as seen by his Dennis Rodman inviting to come there. I thought real progress was going to be made, and that this was a break. This was going to be a break, and that they would come more towards a more free market style, I guess you would say, system, and certainly a more open society. But you see stories like this already. You see that the Jang Song-Fix, he's been edited out of official documents, official videos already. It's like a Stalinist Russia, a Stalinist Soviet Union. It's signs of bad things. It's not progress. It's going back. Certainly, the hope that I had, the hope that many people had for a change in North Korea is diminishing when you see stories like this.
Thank you for the nice introduction. So I'm going to give the 2 talks for the price of 1. So first, I will wear the hat of the Strategic Advisory Committee and give a brief summary of the observations and recommendation that found by the committee. So let's start with the general observations from the last review that's about 3 years ago. And obviously, commercial cloud services have mushroomed. That's one of the events that happened. And data science or big science become an important tool in science and also business. And also, I mean, the privacy issue in cyberspace has become a very important issue in our life. But if you just go to specifically to SurfNet, then there has been contractual issues with the Sienna, and also they have gone through this organizational changes within the SurfNet. So there has been lots of things has been going around for the last 3 years. Despite that, SurfNet delivered the result. So SurfNet strongly innovated. This is the finding that the committee found. So, I mean, specifically, they have been successfully carried out various initiatives. Some of the examples are, I guess, the people here are very well know of. It's an Enlighten Your Research project. Enlighten Your Research. This is a way to find more novel cases of using IT to support your research. And they have been providing multi-service port approach to integrate LightPath and the internet services. And also SurfConnect has been kind of leading example of the collaboration infrastructure around the world. And also, I mean, they have been leading many of the international networking initiatives. For example, it was this transatlantic links of the N100G. So, I mean, the committee found that SurfNet has delivered the result, and they should be happy and content with what they have achieved. But then, well, we have to start to look at the future now. Okay, there are many trends, but one of the trends the committee found is that network technology becomes mature and is evolving even more rapidly. So basically, you need somebody that can take advantage of this leading edge or bleeding edge technology and apply them to deliver the service that's a little bit ahead of the commodity services. So that's critical entity. And I mean, who else is the better for the role than SurfNet? SurfNet over the last few decades has been doing the job very successfully, and including the last incarnation of SurfNet 7. So committees don't see any other option but the SurfNet to continue to take the role. But heaven forbid, if they decide not to, I mean, that's what we found is that Dutch networking innovation. I mean, SurfNet, I mean, I guess all the members of the committee agree that this is the best in the world, and that innovation will be gone. And not only for the Dutch community, but international partners should also disappear. So, I mean, we just hope this is nothing we just want to see happen. Okay. But for them to continue, I mean, funding is one of the major issues there. I mean, it's just wanting to do research, or the basic research on the networking, but to assemble and integrate and just make it happen is a totally different story, and that needs just order of magnitude different type of funding there. So the committee feels that the funding has to be set aside to carry out the mission. Okay. And so this is the last note that is kind of summary of just what I have described. Okay. All right, so then I'm going to change my hat. Yep. Well, I'm a stupid man that I don't know how to change this PowerPoint slide anymore. Okay. So I'm just now wearing a different hat as a Director General of the National Institute of Supercomputing and Networking. So I want to give a kind of overview of e-infrastructure activities in Korea now. Okay. So let me start with an incident in Korea. This is a cover of a Korean newspaper, and you shouldn't focus on the pretty lady there, but the headline. The headlines say, Korea is a supercom blind. What happened is that there was no system from Korea that made top 500 list at that time. And this was pretty depressing because we used to have about 10 systems in top 500 list. So we all know that supercomputing is an important tool to enhance the competitiveness of the country. So obviously, Korea is not doing a good job. So something has to be done. So that's the motivation for the Supercomputing Act. This is one of our attempts to do it. So basically, the discussion for the necessary need for such an act goes back to the 90s. But in early 2000, the issue was raised in various committees of the National Assembly of Korea. And we got the little momentum when the bill was proposed in the regular session of the National Assembly of Korea in 2009. And it has to went through the committees and subcommittees and hearings and so on. And it was approved in the general session in April of 11, and it was enacted in the June of 2011. So, I was leading the whole process, and it was pretty unique experience. How many chances do you have to have a law, to make a law in your life? It was really interesting to working with the politicians and high-ranking officials. And I learned a lot, and there are many interesting stories. And also, you cannot argue the success. I'm not sure about the politicians in Netherlands, but this was the only law that the committee passed in 2-year period of time. And this period of 2 years is considered pretty fast in Korean standard. So what is the bill about? The official title is a utilization and promotion of national supercomputing. That's the title. And the goal is we all agree on to enhance people's quality of life and economic competitiveness by the use of the supercomputing. Okay. So how to achieve the goal? The key action is basically try to establish and execute the comprehensive plan for the national supercomputing ecosystem. So there are two types of plans. One is a master plan that's every 5 years, and implementation plan for every year. So to have the weight on this plan, so we have set up National Supercomputing Committee. So the chairman of the committee is the Secretary of the Ministry of Science, ICT, and Future Planning. So we have this ministry have a long name. So in Korea, we either call MSIP or Minister of Future, like a Harry Potter movie. And the vice minister of the 9 other ministries are also a member, and about the same number of experts. So about this 20 people committee is the one that's making all the final decision about the whole supercomputing ecosystem, including networks there. And also one other organization we have set up is a National Supercomputing Center. So they need some entity to support the planning and execution of the plan. So what is the plan? So the law was passed in 2011. So we are busy in setting up the master plan. So this humble-looking document is a cover of national plan. So this is 5 years from 2013 to 17. And you see the name of all the ministries involved. So basically, we have 3 strategies or 3 areas. So first one is to expand the adoption and build the efficient infrastructure and R&D on key technology. So these are the 3 areas we are going to address and to become so-called top 7 nation by 2017. So if you expand a little further of all these strategies, so each strategies are expanded into 10 programs. So for the case of the expanding adoption, we have 4 programs. The first one is the enhanced adoption, basically in national R&D programs. Second one is the enhanced adoption in private sector. Third one is public sector. And the last one is that we realized that people's perception, general public's perception of computing is very important to have a major impact. So that's classified as one separate programs. So regarding the infrastructure, basically there are 3. First one is the let's have national scale resource planning of the computing and networking, and then build shared infrastructure across the nation. And the human resources program is one other thing. So for the case of the R&D, the first one is to build a Korean supercomputer system. That's the first one. And second one is to just try to do R&D on key areas. And no ecosystem is complete without local industry. So we have a program that's supporting local industries. So this is a 3 area and 10 programs. And then next year is the implementation plan. Basically, what is happening is that, so this one is for the case of the area of the enhanced adoption, and you see 4 programs. And then what is written in blue is a project that's under the programs. So I wouldn't bother with the details, but basically this is summary. So there are about 48 projects that's carried out for the year of 2013. And there's a modest increase of funding to $40 to $60 million. But what we want to happen is that we want to have some jump. And that is what this big scale project, they are on the plan, and they will start from next year. So the biggest one is so-called Super Korea 2020. We'll have a $200 million budget. And we have a national supercomputing shared structure and about the education training programs. I'm going to say a little more about these programs later. Okay. So about my institute. So basically the mission and the function of my institute is written in the law. So that's a good and bad thing. So basically the mission is to support the whole thing, support this government effort of building on Korean ecosystems. And to carry out that, we are given several functions. For example, securing and operating world-class computing resources is one of the functions we have to do. It's written in the law. And also, same for the network. So we have to provide advanced research network too. Also, we have to carry out the R&D and the supercomputing. So these are the missions that we have to given from the law. And we had the inauguration ceremony by the end of 2012. And we are very happy that we have many friends around the world, in the US, in Europe, and Japan, and China, that gave us congratulatory messages there. So, this is, how my organization is structured there. So basically, we have 3 centers and 1 department. Service center is the one that is providing supercomputing services, nationwide supercomputing services there. And network center is providing nationwide network services. And we have separate R&D center that carrying out researches, both on computing and networking. And then we have a strategy department that is, one role is to work with the government of the setting up the plan and execution, and the other to support the whole organization. So we have 3 center and 1 department. So when I just see how things are going on at SURF, so if you compare, service center is basically SURF Sarah, and network center is a SURFNet. I don't know what R&D center is here, but okay. All right. So, and in terms of statistics, there are about 200 people working for me, and I feel like I'm working for 200 people. And about half of them permanent, and about 80% have their more than master's degrees there. So the budget is about $50 million, and that's this per year. And this is not including the capital for the machine and the new data center we are building. So if you include everything, it will be like $65 million per year. So then I'll just go on to say just computing and network infrastructure in Korea. So this is what we have now as a kind of shared computing infrastructure. So we have 21 systems from 10 organizations that give the shared about 400 teraflop capacity there. And it looks good, but the problem is that out of 394, 340 came from one organization, that's me. So this is certainly not a balanced infrastructure there. So we think this as a kind of pilot. This is what we have now, okay? But what we are going to build on is not this one, but it's just try to build on top of this, and that is written in the master plan. So basically, we are trying to have a three hierarchy of centers. So national centers, and specialized center, and regional centers. I guess in the European language, it's a tier 0 and tier 1 and tier 2 centers. Yeah. So I mean, national center, I mean, that's us. We'll have the leading leadership type computing facility there, and specialized center will support small to medium scale problems there, and regional centers are supporting every individual institute. Okay, so we are trying to build this whole ecosystem out of now. So this is what we are going to build in 5 years' time. So by 2017, what we are going to have is that we are going to have 1 national center and 3 specialized center and 4 regional centers there. So what is shown is try to have an analogy with the train system. So. But I mean, not only the computing, but we're trying to expand the services there. So what we have now is we have pretty much only one service, is HPC service. But what we are trying to add on is that right now we are very close to providing production level service of HT service, like this is more on the parameter stripping or something like that. And also we are trying to add 2 more services. One is the data intensive computing services that for the particular application, particular group of applications, and all the cloud services there too. So this is the vision we have until 2017 there. Okay, so the Super Korea 2020, my ministry doesn't want to say too much about it, but this is basically what I can summarize is a larger scale HPC project in Korea, and total budget is $200 million, and starting from next year for 5 years. And it has 2 goals. One is to procure the leadership system. That's a system I'm going to operate. And then build the Korean supercomputers. So there was about $110 million allocated for the leadership system, and about $90 million allocated for the building the Korean supercomputers there. So well, this is as far as I can say with the permission from the ministry. Okay, so and one other thing is that, I mean, this system is massive, and it doesn't fit in my current building. So we have to build a new data center just for the machine. And this is what I'm going to have first half of next year. So the nice thing about my office is I can look at the construction every day and see all the progress there. So I mean, what is building now is this is a basement. So basically, this is 1 ground floor and 3 layer buildings. Okay, so the first layer is nearly complete. Okay, so I mean, I can certainly see if there's anything wrong, then I can just bug the guy who is in charge. So I assure you that it is under progress. Okay, so. Then, okay, that's probably enough about the network, enough of computing, and let's go to the network. So let me start with the commercial network situation in general. So, I mean, Korea has been catching up in the last few decades, right? So this is one of the examples that if you look at fixed line subscription, so, I mean, 1960s, when I was born, Korea was the poor country, and so, I mean, this number is about 1/10 of world average, okay? And in 20 years, it reached world average, and in another 20 years, it's 3 times of the world average now, okay? And the similar thing that can be said to internet. So in 95, so it's about 1/5 of the world average, and in 4 years, it becomes the average, reach the average of developed nations, and in 2 years, it becomes number 3 in the world. So we are just catching up pretty fast now. So I guess we are at this point of we are just remaining in the leading group. So I did a little survey. So these are just, for example, if you compare, let's say, fixed broadband penetration. So Netherlands is number 2 in the world, and Korea is number 5. Both countries are far ahead of the world averages, right? So, but if you just look at the mobile broadband, Korea is number 4 in the world, and Netherlands is number 20, but still both are far above all the averages. But if you look at, I cannot imagine this happen, but if you look at the number of individuals who are using the internet, I couldn't imagine, judging from my son's behavior, I cannot imagine any country using more internet than Korea. But obviously Netherlands do. So they are number 5 in the world, and Korea is following with the number 18. Okay? So in some sense, like a score is Netherlands 2, Korea 1. Okay, so I admit that you beat us, but not by much margin. So we are trying. Okay, so this is one of the things we are trying about the fixed line broadband. Broadband is one of the emphasis in Korea. There's a project called BCN, Broadband Convergence Network, and it was completed in 2010. So out of the 50 million population in Korea, about 14 million have more than 50 megabps to their home by fiber. Okay? And now, right now, we are under the so-called Giga Internet project. So we'll have 90% of people have more than gigabps at least by 2017. That's only 3 years away. Okay. So this is it's just few of the attempts. We are just trying to be competitive. And so if you look at the mobile internet, so I guess I didn't believe the number, but out of 50 million population, 30 million population people have not only cellular phone, but LTE or LTA. So what is production in now is LTA service. It's about 150 megabps. And we are the first country who has nationwide service of LTA. Okay. What is under preparation is a so-called CA LTA. This will be 3 times more speed. I don't know why you need that much speed, but understand that Koreans are impatient, so they don't want to wait. And also in terms of mobile spot, that we have nationwide Giga Wi-Fi service, and that has more than 1 gigabps bandwidth there. But bandwidth is not this part of thing you need to have the whole ecosystem. So there is something called Giga in Korea project that's underway now, and it tries to build the whole ecosystem, not only the network, but all the applications and so on. And so the budget is that they actually asked $1 billion, and they was turned away. They got only half of that, but that's not a small amount of money, I can imagine, and that's for the next 8 years. So these are the kind of investment Korea is doing to reverse this trend. Okay. So, and for my research network, so the name of my research network is CREONet. So in one word, it is a national science research network. That's the good description. And it started in service in 1988. And so we had 25 years we are in service. And we are supporting about 200 organizations. And we have 24-hour service there. And currently we have 16 regional centers and four international POPs. So the backbone is that we have 200 gig backbone between Seoul and my center in Daejeon. And other centers are connected by either 40 gig backbone or branched into the 10 gig connections there. So if you look at the history of how they evolved, is that in 1990s that we have this routing service that has been operational. And then in early 2000, we introduced the hybrid network service. And then we started international links of the 10 gig service to the China and US. And from 2010, we have an upgrade. So in 2000, that we have 100 gig backbone, but this is 10 of the 10 gigs links, right? But from 2010 on, that we have 200 gig links, that backbone there. And we have a Korea Ethernet service, was the equipment was upgraded to there. So I mean, this is probably the easy way to look at it. If you just have 2 users, so this is what you have in 1990s. So they have routing service and that's it. And in 2000, this is what they have. They can have the choice of the layer 1, 2, 3 services. And the backbone there at the bottom was the 10 of the 10 gig link there. And in 2010, this is a new service. So basically, the backbone was upgraded to the 100 gig trunk. And then in the layer 2, we introduced Korea Ethernet services. So I guess, the service architecture is not that different from the SurfNet 7 architecture here. And so, infrastructure is infrastructure. You have to have applications. And out of 200 organizations and many domains we are supporting, these are the kind of areas that we are focusing on. They currently have a huge demand for the bandwidth and have an even bigger demand for the potential bandwidth in the future. So this is just one of the examples that we are supporting. This is one of the community, this radio astronomy. So these are people that have 3 radio telescopes, one in Seoul and one in Jeju Island and one in Ulsan. So this, believe me, it's just as far as you can spread out in Korea. Okay? And each one is connected to one gig links. And then this signal from the 3 radio telescope has to be correlated at the central facility that's located at KASI, that's the Korea Astronomy and Space Science Institute there. So basically what you're providing now is that we provide a virtual dedicated network for these people to work on. And of course, these people are not working alone, they're collaborating internationally, so that's the kind of bandwidth we're supporting it. So this is what we are doing, supporting now. So, but these people got more greedier. So they say, well, each radio telescope, they are producing 4 band, and each band is 8 gigabps. So each radio telescope is producing 32 gigabps, and you have 3 of them connected together. So we need a bandwidth of 96 gigabps. And they say, can we do anything about that one? So basically what we have now, this is what we are experimenting in. We have a link between Seoul and Daejeon. We have dark fiber link that's under our control. So basically we are trying to experiment to support this humongous traffic experiment with our dark fiber. So hopefully if it is successful in our next upgrade, it will be just be part of our regular services there. So in terms of the international dimension, Gloria is the one that got us one step ahead. So this was the currently consortium of about 15 countries, including Netherlands. And the idea is very simple, just connect the world by ring topology, but each country is responsible for their own segment. Okay? So Korea is responsible for the link from the Hong Kong to Korea to the States, and we have 2 separate links. That one goes to Pacific Northwest Gigapop in Seattle, and the other links to Starlight facility in Chicago. So this is what we have. So we have the KL lights, so have a 4 entry point in some sense. So it can go to Hong Kong or Daejeon in my institute, or Seattle or Chicago there. It's connected to the other side of the world. And this, all the connection is necessary for the collaboration. So there are several collaborations that's going on between partners in Europe and the US among the Asian partners. And we are the one that's supporting this kind of collaboration. These are the infrastructure we are supporting this kind of collaborations. So we have to also have to think about what next for our architecture. So, I mean, the timing for our next architecture will be like 2016 time frame. So, I mean, we have a tendency, I mean, we are just taking a close look at software-defined network, because that seems to be such a promising technology. But I think it will be I mean, there has to be several things have to sort it out before it becomes a part of the execution plan. So these are the kind of what we are working on to stay as competitive as Netherlands. Okay, thank you.